The Hand You're Dealt. Written by MasterOfTheLemons. Montague sat idle in the busy, bustling yard of Paddington Station. He looked dismal. He was only shaken from his thoughts when a stocky, cheerful man paced up to him from across the yard. He put his hands on his hips and teased. "What's this? Have I got the right pannier?" Montague replied glumly. "You do. Why? Why, my Montague is never this subdued. Are you even in steam?" "No, of course, just, low pressure. Coil started me up an hour ago." The driver raised a bushy eyebrow. "A whole hour? Huh, well, you should be very eager then. I bet you've mapped out the whole shunting plan already, haven't you? My, you've got a good view of the yard." Montague only sighed and looked away. No, I'm sorry to say, I haven't planned a thing." The driver drew in closer, his concern mounting. "Okay, what's wrong with you, Monty? You're starting to worry me." Montague groaned quietly. The last thing he wanted to do was make a spectacle. He had tried to keep quiet and had succeeded for several months. Most engines and staff would leave him be or take him at his word when he said, "I'm fine." But his driver was Siebert Sellerman, the undisputed poker champion of Paddington Shed. He could read anyone like a billboard. Most importantly, he was the man who once stopped his entire train to rescue a cat from a tree by the line side. He was incapable of ignoring someone in distress. So Montague spoke his troubled mind at last. "Oh, it's nothing substantial, driver. It's just my performance of late." "Your performance? It's been superb, as always. I, of all people, should know. I'm with you every second of every day." "Indeed. And yet you haven't noticed." "That can't be—" "Notice what? What are you on about, old boy?" "Sir, it's my waddle." The driver had to stifle a chuckle. His hand flew to his mouth reflexively, trying to conceal the smile. You're what?" Monty lost patience, and soon afterward reserve as well. "I waddle, driver, back and forth, side to side. Other engines can see it from a mile away." The driver's shoulders slumped under the weight of his own empathy. He soothed. "Montague, I hear it from every engine I meet. They can't all be delusional, can they? There's something wrong with me." Montague's driver pondered carefully. I have noticed." "Ha! You too? Well, that's it now, then." "Montague, hold on. I've always known. We've been working together for almost a year now. And what sort of driver would I be if I didn't know my engine inside and out, Montague's bitter frown lessened a little, upon realizing that his insinuation might be insulting. He had the greatest respect for the man who drove him, and indeed, all railway seniority. He had to clarify. "I never meant to suggest that you were at all negligent, sir. I would never suggest that. It's just... you've never remarked on it." The driver only sighed faintly, and then with a few clumsy movements, dragged himself onto the engine's buffer beam. He leaned against the sandbox and made himself comfortable. He patted his engine sympathetically on the running plate. "Montague, I've worked on this railway for 24 years now. Do you know what a long time that is?" Truthfully, Montague couldn't fathom it. He'd only existed for one, and it felt like so much had already happened. But he answered as respectfully as he could. "A very, very long time." "Indeed. I've driven many engines of many types, but none, and I mean none of them, have been as good at their job as you are. You're quick to start, precise to stop, you never waste your coal in water, and you never quit, even when it's been 3 days straight without so much as an hour's rest. You are the most useful engine I've had the pleasure of driving." Montague was now looking awfully red for a Great Western engine. A single compliment was more than he could bear, but all those, however many there were, his blushing cheeks would have made great tail lamps at night, to say the least. "You haven't got to say anything. I know you'd never accept it, but it's true, and you deserve to know that it's true. You are the best engine I have ever driven." Siebert paused briefly, trying to decide whether he should say the next bit. He did anyway, of course. "A few weeks ago, the manager gave me the offer to drive one of those new Manas that Swindon has cooked up. And do you know what? I declined." Montague gasped. "Sir, surely you didn't." "Oh, I did. I've never done that before. I always take a promotion. But no promotion trumps you, Monty. And that's why I don't care about your waddle. You've never let it stop you before, and it shouldn't stop you now." Montague smiled slightly, for the first time all day. It was a glowing review, the kind he worked day and night to receive. But while it was nice, recognition wasn't the only reason Montague worked so hard. In fact, it was a rather secondary motivation compared to the most important goal of all. I'm a Great Western engine driver, and that means I must provide our passengers and our clients alike with the best service possible. This is Paddington, one of the greatest stations in the world, on the greatest railway in the world. It deserves to be the very best. And I'm not the best. And he said that last part in a heartbreakingly quiet tone. His driver's compassionate smile faded. It was replaced by a frown. He looked stern, almost angry, but it wasn't directed at Montague. It was directed at what Montague believed, a belief that was tearing him up inside. Siebert was a Great Western veteran through and through. He knew what his railway stood for. And why is that? Just because your axle is bent? Well, yes, it makes me defective. I work hard, yes, but a pannier with 3 good axles could work even harder. Siebert just shook his head, his disagreement written in every wrinkle of his brow and gesture of his body. It doesn't work that way, Monty. It's not about the hand you're dealt. It's what you do with it that matters. The hand you're dealt? What does that mean? The driver shrugged and explained. It's a card game metaphor. It's about being resourceful. But in this case, it's rather fitting. And the driver held out his own hand, so Montague could see it. He then reached over with his other, and with one flicking motion, pulled the glove clean off. Montague stared for a long time, unsure of what he was seeing. The engine made a strange face. Your hand, it's not like most people's hands. That's because it isn't real. And he knocked it on the engine's smokebox. Sure enough, the hand rang out as if it were made of wood. Well, because it was. Looking closer, Montague realized that the fingers weren't even articulated. They were frozen in one position, and hadn't the faintest hope of gripping anything. Then, you've only got one hand, really. Not quite. This prosthetic is more useful than you think upon first glance, if you're clever with it. But yes, I do almost all my work with my left. Another question creeped down Montague's funnel. It seemed like another rude question. He did so detest being rude. But he valued honesty even more. Do the other men know that your hand is inauthentic? Siebert just chuckled heartily. Montague was relieved to see that he wasn't offended. Know about it? My dear engine. The Great Western Railway made me this hand. Montague was beyond surprised. He knew that Swindon Works could fix engines, but he had never considered that they might also fix people. When did you first lose your hand? If you don't mind me asking, of course. The driver sat further back on the running plate and exhaled. The memory was clearly painful, but also far off. The sting had almost worn off by now. Almost. You're aware, I'm sure, that trucks can be troublesome. Montague went agape at this. Siebert carried on. And paired with the careless Shunter, they are menaces indeed. I placed my arm where it shouldn't have been. The 2 buffers came together, and well, he knocked his hand on Montague's lamp iron. It made a very interesting clang. Montague pondered his words. Ever the scholar of history, he immediately started assembling a timeline in his mind, based on everything he knew about Siebert Sellerman. Wait, hold on. You haven't been a Shunter for 20 years, sir. Siebert smiled. His face displayed pride and gratitude in equal measure. The railway was loyal to me, and I was loyal back. It wasn't easy, working my way up with one hand tied behind my back, and he stifled a chuckle at his own joke. But this company gave me every opportunity, because I tried hard and gave it my all. Montague's sad eyes shimmered a little. His frown grew lighter as he considered the words. There were many people at work on the Great Western Railway. Some were signalmen, others were gangers, and many, actually, were still porters or cleaners or firelighters. And so far as he could tell, they'd all had 2 fully functional hands. And yet his driver was respected and admired by all of these men. The wooden hand hadn't made a lick of difference. Is that so? But I thought they'd cast me aside. And why ever would you think that? It's just, this railway is so standardized. Everyone is meant to look the same, operate the same, and be maintenance the same. That's our strength. No, Monty? No, it isn't. and he paused wondrously. "Our strength is that we all share a common goal, a vision for what our railway can be. You love that green paint of yours, don't you?" "I'm honored to wear it," said Montague with the greatest possible earnesty. "As does every engine on this network. But it's not because they all want to fit in. It's because they all believe the same thing. Making this railway the fastest, cleanest, most efficient public service it can possibly be. None of us are exactly the same, not one of us. But we all have the same dream." Montague's eyes twinkled, a sweet smile emerging on his relieved face. "So, you really think I can serve the railway proper, even with this bum axle of mine?" The driver just beamed, and patted his engine with encouragement. "You already do. So, they'll make concessions for me, even if I'm a little different." The driver clasped one hand with the other reverently. "That's what our railway does, old boy." Montague never paid any mind to his waddle after that.